Hey everybody, how we doing? I am glad to be on here and presenting this lecture, and on the other side of it, I really hope that you're doing well, staying healthy, and staying sane. Each and every one of you, for real, are in my thoughts, and I'm giving you the best wishes out there in this very weird and confusing and uncertain time. You know, keep on doing your thing and stay sane out there. If I haven't volunteered my phone number yet, but by all means, I apologize for not doing so. If you want to call or text, I'll put it on the Blackboard announcement to this lecture upload. But the number is 315-663-4178, and if for whatever reason you want to talk, don't hesitate to reach out. That's fine. I'd be more than happy to talk with each and every one of you about whatever you may have going on. But to get to the crux of this little lecture here, I wanted to keep it as swift and succinct as possible. We both know, or we all know, that I'm not the best at that. But I wanted to address the Martinez essay specifically in the space of this lecture today, and talk about it in regards to the different types of claims that can be presented within an argument, within an essay. And so there's the appeals, right, that we've already gone over. Most prominently logos, ethos, pathos. And with this particular essay, I think it's good to introduce the different types of claims that can be encountered in an essay. And it's a good, there are good tools for you to isolate important parts of essays, important passages, put a label on them, and use that as a prompt for your analysis. So the three types of claims that are most important for our purposes are claims of fact, claims of value, and claims of policy. And Martinez does a great job, even at in the very beginning of her essay, of utilizing all three right off the bat. So we can get to them, and I can describe them a little bit for you, or show some specific examples, and we can move on with our lives. But first, I think with every essay, with every reading we encounter, it's always best to start by just putting on the table the key claim of what was present in the writing. And for the Martinez essay, I think the key claim, the thesis statement, is most succinctly put on page 323, paragraph 4, right at the very top. She says, we've seen that nostalgia before in the nation's history, but today it signifies a problem reaching a new intensity. It suggests a national identity crisis that promises to bring in its wake an unprecedented nervous breakdown for the dominant society's psyche. I think that acts as a good key claim, just because it sort of encompasses the rest of the argument, or it contains the seeds of the argument. On a more conceptual basis, okay, what I want you to take away from that key claim is that Martinez is arguing for this idea that there's an inherent corruption in the structure of our society and in the culture of our society, and even despite this corruption, people can somehow have sympathetic feelings in regards to this structure, to this system that we found ourselves in. Now, obviously, there's a lot to be grateful for in being in America and being able to partake of the fruits of what they consider freedom. But Martinez in this essay says the way that we idealize and the way that we have mythologized the foundation of our society, the end result now is more that it's deluding us and putting the wool over our eyes as to some of the real machinations and more corrupt processes that are a staple of the society. Okay, moving on. So these claims, just by the way, before I start diving into them specifically, if you want some reference, the different types of claims, fact, value, policy, are described in our textbook, and I'll have this uploaded to Blackboard, this excerpt as well. Pages 91 to 94. It goes over in detail these different types of policies, defining them, and you know they're not easily defined, so they're working it out a little bit, each different type. But for the claim of fact, I mean, you know, we can make a pretty self-obvious definition of that. It is a claim that has a fact as its basis for whatever it's asserting. And that might be a confusing way to put it, I guess. But again, Martinez does really great work of, right off the bat, putting in some very specific examples of each of these different types of policies. So, different types of claims. So, claim of fact. For Martinez, she asserts one right in the very first paragraph. You know, this is sort of the logos part of it, I guess. Facts and logos, you know, they go hand in hand. But she refers to the 15 years starting in 1940 where 85% of all U.S. elementary schools used this Dick and Jane book series to help educate the students in their reading development and whatnot. And so that's a factual, you know, description of a place and time of our society. You know, it's 80, 70 years ago, but it's a specific, factual, verified happening. Okay, but she uses this, right? What she uses in her assertion of this claim of fact is the whiteness. That second series, or that second sentence. The series star Dick, Jane, and their white middle-class parents, their dark spot, and their life together in a home with a white picket fence. So she uses this claim of fact, and then, you know, as an assertion for what she wants to start arguing. Okay, and she refers then, you know, the key word becomes whiteness in that regard. You could use this claim of fact to spin a different type of assertion if you wanted to. Perhaps, you know, if you were of the more nostalgic standpoint, you could use this as the basis of, you know, lamenting that America no longer has its common values as it did when back in the 40s when it was teaching Dick and Jane books to elementary kids. It's using the same fact but asserting a much different value attached to it, or yeah, much different connotation. Okay, claim of value. Right after this Dick and Jane reference, she uses it to talk about specifically nostalgia, and the connotation that she has with nostalgia is negative. A nostalgia for the days of unchallenged white supremacy, both moral and material, when life was quote unquote simple. So this value of nostalgia she uses as a way to, again, fortify her argument. Take this keyword, this value word, and use it to show, in a negative connotation, how it has affected our society. And that was in the last sentence of paragraph 3, just so you know, if I didn't already say that. Okay. Lastly here, we have a claim of policy, and if you reference all of paragraph 5 on page 323 of Martinez's essay, she has a bunch of specific policies that she lists in that paragraph to show and unpack the ambiguity of the way our society handles its rhetoric of diversity, and how it has tried to take step forward take steps forward, but has also in that process taken steps back, which is that's sort of the dynamic of that paragraph 5 with the incorporation of the policies and the different propositions that had been played across the political stage in the 90s. And that's worth keeping in mind too. This essay is written in 1998. So while a lot of what she was arguing for has developed and perhaps improved a little bit, there still is a lot of work to be done along the lines of, I think, what she's describing here in the pages. Okay, but with supportive claims now, things we've gone over before, the ways that she backs up this disillusionment of our society in the way that we've founded it. She has 3 keywords that she then uses to analyze the new myths of America, or the truer myths of America. And these 3 phrases: genocide, enslavement, and imperialist expansion. And then she goes through the rest of the essay, analyzing and unpacking those 3 terms and how they have been truer processes in which to describe the foundation and structuring of our society, versus in counter argument, what she's setting herself up against argumentatively is the frontier myths of the turn of the century, the 1900s, Teddy Roosevelt, and the cowboys and the virile masculinity that the cowboys exhibited and expressed, and that virile maleness that was a part of the whole frontier myth of America establishing itself. And also this myth, that we are the land of the free, and that's what sort of America has always been labeled as. She doesn't explicitly call this out, but I think it's in the subtext of a lot of what she's saying. That's part of the counter argument that's embodied, that she's reacting against in her argument is, America, this is considered the land of the free. No persecution, political oppression, whatever, and yet it's by those very correct means that we've established our society, or at least that's according to Martinez, and she does have some very compelling evidence to back that up with. Concessions too, when concessions are a point in time in her argument or in anybody's argument where they are willing to take a step back from the rigidity of the stance that they're trying to propound and explain, and show that there have been some measures taken towards trying to fulfill and attain the points that she's making in her argument for the better. And the concession that Martinez ends up making isn't until the very end. In page 325, at the very bottom, paragraph 17, she starts to describe how at one point the U.S. Congress had been thinking of deploying some, overarching apology to the disadvantaged groups that had been victimized in the structuring of our society. And she does, treat that, I think, a little sarcastically, perhaps, that, there's a wink and a nod that, an apology would be nice, but how effective would that really be? And is it worth wasting all of the, political time that it would take to agree on, the exact wording of an apology? It would just become its own sort of cluster. And I think she sees that as well. And especially its limited effectiveness. And also, as that being the only concession she includes here in her essay, and the treatment that she gives it, that gives you a sort of clue as well, that she is trying to be concessional, and that perhaps she is willing to be concessional, but let's face it, on this front, there's still a lot of bad stuff going on that's not worth being concessional about in regards to America's rhetoric of diversity and how we treat all that stuff. Okay, so that again is the claims of fact, value, policy, supportive claims to help back up her argument or the argument of an essay, and then talking about concessions, counter arguments. And just to be clear again, all that can be further read up on from the Greek academic writing. Okay, now real quick before I go here, homework wise, due on Monday, I have posted on Blackboard a sample of this emotional intelligence test, self-scoring. It's on the section independence, and I think it's important just to reflect on that a little bit, interact with that test, just given our specific circumstances and being in isolation, being in lockdown or whatever the case might be, and how well we are emotionally independent to deal with the pronounced isolation that we've been asked to deal with. Okay, so there's that, and then you fill out the test, you score it. Like if you answer B on question 2, that's like 2 points. If you answer C on question 3, that might be 1 point. You add all those up. It's 12 questions. Add them up. Read the diagnosis that the test has for you, and then I want you to write a 1-paragraph rhetorical response, talking about how effective you think that test was in assessing your personal attributes. Some other prompts that you could consider. Do you think the questions were fairly put? How exact did the possible answers match your initial inner responses to the questions? And would you take seriously the results of a test like this if they were given to you under more official, like clinical conditions? Just reflect on that a little bit and write a paragraph. I'll have the assignment portal open for that soon after this lecture, soon after posting this lecture. And then lastly, I also have an excerpt from the book Flow, The Psychology of Optimal Experience. And again, specific to the situation that we currently find ourselves in. It's important for you, I think, right now at this point, to reflect on your ability or inability to achieve a flow state in your consciousness, which is, this like, you sort of creatively lose yourself in the activity before you. Is sort of a loose definition of flow. But you can read more about it in the excerpt, and how our culture, our society is or is not getting in our way of attaining these flow states. I think it's worth you reflecting on that a little bit. And then we're going to compare the arguments, the cultural arguments that Martinez proffers versus the cultural arguments that Mihaly in Flow proffers in the excerpt I gave you. So just have that read for Monday, and then we'll do the comparison. That'll be my next lecture. I'll do a little bit of a comparison between Martinez and the Flow excerpt for you. Just have that read. And again, the emotional intelligence test response as well. Okay, that's it. I really hope the best for you out there. I hope you're doing well. I wish you health and safety. And please, again, feel free to contact me and talk with me about whatever you might have going on at this point. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. I'm all ears. So don't hesitate. But other than that, all the best to you. Take care. Until next time.